Hi, sister. Welcome to week 8 of our 52 weeks together of diving deep into studying God's attributes. I came out of New Thought and New Age, which only focused on God is love. And that is one of his attributes for sure. He is love. And there's so much more. We can't have just a one-dimensional view of God and still trust him. We're exhorted in Proverbs 3:5 to trust in the Lord with all of our heart and lean not on our own understanding. Unfortunately, my old life was leaning on my own understanding, following my heart, following my dreams. And it was painful, even disastrous in many ways. And so it's about trusting God, learning who God is by studying his attributes in the Bible and drawing near to him. In this broken, fallen world that's getting crazier every day, it seems, we need to be leaning on God instead of leaning on our own understanding. So we're going to dive in today to looking at the attribute we're looking at this week, which is God is all powerful. And this is especially important for those of us who've been saved out of occult or New Ageism or New Thought or false gospel, self-made religions, because that call to be powerful was intense in those paths. In fact, it leads a lot of women tragically into Wicca and witchcraft with this false view that that gives them power. And some of the spells or invocations of goddesses can seem to work and have effects because the devil's a counterfeiter and he can mimic to a degree God's miracles, as we see in Exodus with the sorcerers mimicking to a degree God's miracles. And so we have to be very careful of this desire to have power and control, especially those of us who've come out of abuse or abandonment or otherwise have been traumatized. There's this deep wound where we feel like we can't trust anyone. Some people feel like they can't even trust God. Now, for me, it was because I didn't know him. Some people don't trust God because they think their prayers haven't been answered or answered in a way they didn't like. And so we have to be super careful that we're not thinking that we can't trust God. And if we're feeling that way, we need to take that to God and just be honest and pour out our heart to him and say, Lord, please help me to trust you. That's what I did when I was first saved. I had images of Proverbs 3:5 everywhere, wall plaques, mugs, Post-it notes. And I was just praying, pouring into prayer. Please, Lord, help me to trust you. And it really came down to knowing him through Bible study. And for me, that was going to seminary full time for 2.5 years and earning a master's degree because I had read the Bible my whole life, but I didn't know it. And I needed to learn how to rightly divide the word. By the way, during this video, you're going to see my little elderly Pomeranian Carib walking around, and she's got clothing on because she has, unfortunately, alopecia, and it keeps her warm. She's like a Chihuahua. So if you see or hear a little scurrying paws, that's her. I've had her for 14, 15 years now, and she's still going strong. Anyway, let's talk about God's power and learn to lean on his power instead of trying to lean on ourselves. We'll begin by reading Jeremiah 32:27. Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is anything too difficult for me? God is omnipotent, which means that he's all powerful. There's nothing he can't do, no limit to his strength, and no weakness in his ability. This is comforting when you've been carrying a heavy burden, trying to be strong and pushing through your weariness. Remember that Jesus invites us to set down our burdens. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest, as recorded in Matthew 11:28. We don't need to try to be powerful, as we can rest in God's power and pray for God to give us strength. God's power is unlimited. He created all of the planets, and he holds them all up. His power is also personal, and he uses his strength to provide, protect, sanctify, and care for believers. Ephesians 1, verses 19 through 20 says the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is at work in those who believe. That means his power isn't just for us, it's in us through the Holy Spirit. You're not walking through life alone or unarmed. You're held and strengthened by the Almighty himself. Sometimes women get tangled up in deception and condemned New Age practices in their attempts to gain personal power. Yet the only true source of power is the living God. So if you're facing a challenge right now, remember that nothing is too difficult for the Lord. And because he's all-powerful, you can trust him with everything. And our reflection question for this week is, which burden have you been carrying that you are willing to give to our all-powerful God? Which burdens have you been carrying that you are willing to give to our all-powerful God? Sister, you don't have to try to do everything on your own, and we can't. I talk to so many women every day who, after our conversation, I realize that they're trying to do things in their own strength. That old idea of willpower and that old idea of, I am woman, hear me roar. It's not about personal power. I remember in the New Age going on tour with Louise Hay and some other well-known female New Age authors, and it was called the Empowered Women Tour. And wow, do I regret that now, because it's not about being empowered women. I can't even stand that word empowerment anymore. What about you? It's just so cliche and meaningless and spiritually dangerous, because that's us trying to trust ourselves and lean on our own strength and understanding instead of God. It really comes down to that. Am I trusting God? Am I glorifying God? Or am I trusting myself? Am I glorifying myself? And it's all about trusting and glorifying God. It's all about resting in his strength, praying for his strength, especially if you're going through a season that is testing your endurance, or you're trying to walk away from some sort of sin that you've been convicted about, but it seems to be drawing you and tempting you all the time. Don't try to fight that sin with your own strength, sister. Pray for God to give you his strength. Pray for God to purify your desires, and he will. God is all powerful, which is great news for us. It means that we can just take off the world off our shoulders. We never had it in the first place, but we don't have to try to pretend to control everything and everyone. It's all about God and trusting him. Thank you so much for watching. It's always a joy to be with you every Sunday. God bless you.